Jane Velez Mitchell here. I am honored to have an extraordinary guest with us, Ginger Kathrens, Executive Director of the Cloud Foundation, which has been so instrumental in stopping what I would have to describe as a genocide against America's wild horses and burros. Ginger, you were actually in the room. You were on the National Wild Horse and Burro Advisory Board that voted to essentially kill 45,000 wild horses and burros rounded up by the U.S. government. You were the sole dissenting voice. First of all, you're my hero for that. But I would also like to ask you, what was it like to be in the room as these people, and thank you for looking into the green light at the top of your computer. Don't look at yourself, look at the light. There's a light right there. There's a camera.
Yeah.
There's a camera. That's perfect. That's perfect right there. What was it like to be in the room as the only dissenting voice, as all the other board members on the National Wild Horse and Burro Advisory Board voted to kill 45,000 wild horses and burros?
Well, it was shocking. I did not anticipate it. I didn't see it coming. It came out of the working group, which is a 4-member group that's within the advisory board, of which I am not a member. I believe that other members of the board did know that this was coming, but I certainly wasn't one of them, and that's not a surprise because I think the board is well aware that I'm the humane advocate on this board, and I take that very seriously. And obviously, the wild horses over the years, I consider them my friends, and I'm certainly not going to have them be sold without limitation, ending up at slaughter or killed by the BLM and disposed of.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I believe there's a lie at the center of all of this. And even the New York Times was reporting it from the BLM's perspective, the Bureau of Land Management's perspective, namely that, oh, there's just too many wild horses roaming the land. There used to be millions, and now it's down to something like, according to the New York Times anyway, 67,000. And they describe that as more than 2.5 times the level that should be. And essentially they're buying the story that the BLM is putting out, when in fact, the reason that they want to round up these animals is to clear the land so that the meat and dairy industry can have their cattle grazing the land, and they can use the taxpayer land to graze cattle that they're going to slaughter for profit. Ginger.
That has been historically what's happened to wild horses. They have been removed. There are millions of head of livestock, cattle and sheep, and there are a few thousand wild horses on a small percentage of BLM lands where the majority of the land have livestock on it. So it's a classic fight between those that want control of our public lands and those of us who believe that the wildlife, including wild horses, should take precedence in this case. I mean, wild horses are only on a small percentage of BLM lands. On those lands, can't they be the principal users on their own lands? Do they have to be removed? And our main initiative is keeping them where they're safest, and they are safest when they're with their families on the land. And that's why we're supporting and really putting forth a big effort of on-the-range management, managing the horses there where they belong, not removing them.
Well, a couple of questions. One, do you think the Bureau of Land Management, by extension, Interior Secretary Sally Jewell, were shocked at the outrage across the nation with the White House bombarded with complaints, with just newspaper articles, just generic, like the whole country said, no, you don't dare kill 45,000 horses because of your bureaucratic bungling. Do you think the BLM was shocked at just the horror over that suggestion?
I would hope so. I'm sure the secretary had no idea that this was coming. I had no idea it was coming. I'm not sure whether the BLM had any knowledge that this recommendation was going to be made, let alone to have such support for it within the board. I just don't know. I'd like to believe they knew nothing of it. And they did react fairly quickly in saying no, they would not do it. The head of the BLM, Neil Cornsey, made that statement. And now we just have to be ever vigilant, however, because wild horses and burros have powerful enemies, as you know. They have powerful enemies in Congress, and they do have some powerful enemies within the Bureau of Land Management, I believe. So we have to be really vigilant so that somebody doesn't slip some midnight rider into the appropriations bill without us knowing it. That's what happened in 2005 with Conrad Burns. He slipped in a rider that allowed for sale without limitation of wild horses and burros. It wasn't even known at the time. It was a backdoor deal. It was a political deal that was made. We have to be ever watchful if that doesn't happen this time around.
Well, I want to do a couple of things. I know your time is valuable, but first of all, we want to let people know what exactly they can do. Now, before anybody says, well, contact the Bureau of Land Management to complain, let me call the Bureau of Land Management and let me try to reach our government representatives that we pay tax dollars to. I want you to hear this because it's pretty shocking and scary.
Hello, you have reached the Department of the Interior Information and Employee Locator. All of our operators are busy at this time. For assistance, please listen carefully to the following menu options. For National Park Service Public Affairs, press 1. For the Bureau of Indian Affairs, press 2. For Fish and Wildlife Service, press 3. For U.S. Geological Survey, press 4. For the Bureau of Land Management, press 5.
Press 5. Now listen, I just hit 5. You could see. I hit 5. Nothing. Oh, well, it was broken before, but let's see if we can get somebody.
Let's see who answers.
The number you dialed is not in service.
Okay, the number you dialed is not in service. You saw it right here, 5. I tried to call the Bureau of Land Management as a citizen, as a journalist, as a taxpayer, as an American. I can't even get a hold of them. That's how disconnected, literally, they are from the will of the people. So what would you say Americans should do if they want to make sure that the Bureau of Land Management under Interior Secretary Sally Jewell doesn't pull a fast one and try to commit genocide on 45,000 wild horses and burros when we're looking the other way, despite knowing that the American people are strongly in favor of keeping these animals alive and safe?
They need to contact their congressional representatives. You know, a lot of people, I will say, well, who is your congressman or congresswoman? They don't even know. So people who truly are interested in this issue need to find out who their elected officials are, not state, not local, but federal officials. And if by some chance they're on the Appropriations Committee that will create the bill that the president will be asked to sign, they need to let those congressional representatives know. Don't let them slide in something at the last moment that allows the horses to be killed.
All right, so what we do with a lot of other efforts like this, for example, with an effort to stop, it's a bill that would ban the trapping of animals on federal lands that's right now in the works with Born Free USA pushing it. You can go to their website, click a button, and it connects you to your representatives in Congress. Is there any way we could set something like that up? Because to ask people to do that kind of work, from what I know about people, they won't do it in today's fast-paced world. If you tell them, click this one link, and I'm going to direct you right to your member of Congress, and there's a computer program that does that for nonprofits, I think that we might have a better chance. Would you explore doing that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Jane. It's an excellent idea. And we've just never had anything that quite, got the attention of the American public. I mean, next to rounding up Cloud and his herd, which was in 2009, that had a big public outcry as well. But now technology's on our side. So we really should be able to set something up like that. And I appreciate the suggestion.
Well, I want to thank you. I mean, you're my hero. You stood up and you spoke truth to power, and you were the dissenting voice who said no. And, of course, many groups, including the Humane Society of the United States, which called it unhinged and sort of a final solution, which is pretty strong language coming from the Humane Society. Shame on all the members of the advisory board that voted to kill these horses. Shame on you. How do you sleep at night? That's coming from me, not from Ginger Kathrens. I'm a journalist, and I know that the horses cannot speak for themselves. You've lied as you've rounded them up. You've claimed that you're doing it because they're starving, and they're not. You terrify them with your helicopters, and it's all because you're completely beholden to the agricultural industry and the meat industry, the cattle industry, the fracking industry, and all the other industries that want that land for their own greed. So shame on you. And I really feel like, I hope the White House wakes up to this, and God willing that we deal with this, and that the Interior Department realizes that the American people don't want this. The American people love animals. And you know, I've got some animals right here.
Yeah, well, my dog isn't barking back.
Yes, they're barking back. And I wish horses can neigh, but they can't make as much noise as some chihuahuas. Thank you, Ginger Kathrens, for your time. And I look forward to that link. If you get that link together, I will send it out to our 207,000 followers here on Facebook.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. You do great.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.